Hello and welcome back to part N+1 in projects I'm beginning to regret. Or am I secretly loving it? You decide. So I sent all the videos out, and thank you everyone who's been chatting on Patreon in the comments. I'll put a post on there about the behind the scenes video, and everyone should be checking their email for the link to their own personalized video. And some people have said the emails have gone into, like if you're on Gmail, the promotional folder. I think that's because I'm using the Amazon Web Service SES, which I think is a lot of people use for promotional emails. Or maybe there's keywords in there. Some people it's been picked up as promotional. Check your folder. However, some feedback has been that people's videos didn't work. And so it turns out some characters in some names were breaking the system. And I've gone through, and in fact, there are 98 people where their video did not work, 98 or fewer. I've got a set of 98 names for which the ones that did not work are a subset of that. And so I'm going to fix them. So I thought you might, it's on theme with the rest of this series. I'll show you behind the scenes how I'm going to fix these videos. So it all comes down to the characters that are in the words. And I think I've isolated into two separate problems because the first problem, which I think I've actually already fixed, some characters were breaking the communication between my laptop and the tree. Other characters were getting to the tree fine, but then they were breaking while being displayed. So for the first category, a bunch of people got a video and it's me sat next to the tree and the tree does nothing. It's just me sat there grinning and thumbs upping for 5 seconds with nothing going on. So that's a bit embarrassing. And other people, it started to display their name and then it stopped. And those were people who had like a non-standard character. They're standard characters, they're just not standard in the original ASCII. Because when that was developed, it was just the very standard Latin alphabet with none of the extra characters other countries use. Perfectly valid characters, just ASCII wasn't very forward-looking. And so people like with the O, with the umlauts, the dots on the top, or anything like that, the Czech characters, things like that, people's names would work until they hit one of those characters and they would break. And I'll have a close look at that later. Other people who just got nothing, turns out that's punctuation which is doing that. And so I'm going to show you how I actually control the tree and then why that is then breaking those commands. So what I'm going to do is open up a terminal window. We'll put it like, so over there you go. So that's the it's a terminal window on here. And so the Pi is turned on, everything I've just switched to all on, and I'm going to SSH, which is a secure way basically to communicate between two machines. And I'm going to log into the Pi. The username is Pi, and its address is 192.168.1.163. Done that a few times. And I've already done, I forget what it's called, the authentication where I don't have to put the password in every time because I've shared it correctly. So I can just do that and it will, there we go, logs me in. So now I'm logged into the Pi securely. So now I can run commands on the Pi. And so what I can actually do is if you hit up in the terminal, you get previous things you ran. So the last thing I ran was sudo power off, which was me turning off the Pi. Before that, oh, there you go. So sudo, that just means that I want to run it as a root user, because the weird way you have to do the timing for the signal to control the LEDs, I think you're repurposing like an audio out or something. It's not standard. And some very clever people have made the libraries of commands in Python that do it, but they involve doing non-standard things on the Pi. If you run it as a normal user, for very good security reasons, it won't let you do that. So you have to run it as sudo. Running it all in Python 3, I'm basically telling it to open the Python 3 program, and the Python / is just saying it's in a folder called Python, and the actual program is called Christmas lights - spin. And so if I run that, there you go. So it's running the spin program over there. And so now that's kicked in and it's off and racing. And as long as this program's running, there's just a loop that will go forever. It'll just keep doing that. If I want to stop it, I can cancel out of that command. It pauses. The LEDs, if you stop sending them signal, but you're still giving them power, will just stay whatever color they were last. And so now we got that, right? And so let's run something else. So that's what we just did. Where is, oh, that's my off command. So I've written a script called off, and then you have a space, and you tell it the number of LEDs you want to turn off. And there are 500 LEDs. So if I run that, it just turns all 500 off. Not very exciting. And then, okay, where's, oh, this is me testing my letters. We'll get to that in a moment. Where's my random plane? Here we go, random planes. It says the random plane software. That's how that's running. And so you can see, to control it, I first of all SSH into the Pi, and then I type the commands on this machine, and they're running on that machine, and the commands always tell a Python script to run, and then sometimes there'll be a space and then additional information that gets passed into the Python script when it runs. So the random plane one, there's no additional information that goes into it, so we'll stop that. But something like off, there is. You've got to tell it how many you want to turn off, and you've got to turn off. Actually, if I do spin again, I want to light them all up again. So now if I, where's off? If I only tell the first 200 to turn off, boom, the first 200 in the chain have turned off, but not the rest. So now we can tell the first 400 to turn off. Now the last 100 in the chain, because I kind of cabled it on the way up. And so you got those, and now we'll tell all 500. And so that's how I did the names. So if we want to display a name, so where's my test name from earlier? Letters, here we go. So this is the program, Christmas lights, letters. I've sent thank you. Oh, this is from the end of the last video. So this is the command I ran then. I've put a dot in there because I discovered that spaces, well, I'm still getting notifications from people commenting on Patreon. So I left my phone. I shouldn't have done that. I'll turn it over. You're more important to me than it's you. It's Patreon supporters who are commenting on Patreon, and my phone's buzzing. But video you is more important than comment you. I can get to that later. Okay, so the code, I realized spaces broke it. And so the reason this has a dot in thank you is that stops it from breaking. And I know I don't use periods and anything else. And when it gets to the tree, the Pi swaps it back into a space. And that was my workaround to fix that. And so if I send thank you, the camera's, you're not pointed at it the right way, so the letters aren't going to display correctly from this point of view. But there you go. So it ran through thank you. And then the number afterwards is the Unix time for when it needs to start. But it starts as soon as the actual time is greater than the specified time. So by putting 1 in, that just means start automatically. And that was I mentioned this last time to keep them in sync. So that's kind of the nuts and bolts of how that works. So when I was making the videos, I had to write some code for my laptop, because it's running the camera, which would automatically send those commands over to the tree. And you know what, I'm going to screen grab just this bit here. I'll put that up on the screen. That's the line that does the communication, and the whole process thing, you can ignore that. That's just the Python packaging up the command it's going to send. You can see where I've got Pi IP, that's just so I can change the IP if the Pi IP changes. I send the name as a string, and you can see I'm assembling a long string, which is that command, which is then going to get sent. But now you've got to put everything that you want to run the Pi together as a big long sentence, which we call a string. I know for some people this is grossly oversimplified and probably a bit wrong, and for other people it's too complicated. So I'm just trying to walk the middle ground here. You get a big long sentence, a bunch of characters called the string. I package that up because Python, you can manipulate and edit strings, and so I'm going, oh, I need these letters, then I need the IP, then I need these letters, then I need the name of the user, and then this number, and all that stuff. I put it together as one big string, and then I use the subprocess thing in Python to then SSH that to the Pi. But during that process, it's so easy to break the string, or it doesn't process correctly. And so that's what's happening with those characters. So it kind of makes sense that apostrophes would break it, I think. Because I knew spaces would break it. I thought I just should have tested my code better. This is why I don't write real important code for a living. Like approximately 60% of my Patreon supporters seem to Well, not at the moment. You're all commenting on the post. So is that someone else complaining about the characters being broken? Yeah. So they're talking about developers discussing Unicode support. Thanks, everyone. More on that later. So anyway, I should have tested it better, but that's why I only write pointless hobby code. The moral of the story is a bunch of characters broke it. And so I realized hyphens were fine, ampersands broke it, brackets broke it, apostrophes broke it. So what I've actually done is just taken out those characters. I'm very sorry. If you use brackets, they're gone. If you had an apostrophe, that one hurt because that's a proper part of people's names. And there are ways to kind of break out and put these characters in. You have like lead characters that say ignore the next character is a real character, not a command or not the end of a string, and you can mix and match your quote types, which I was doing anyway. Oh, that's why I've already done it. That's why apostrophes were breaking, because I've used double quotes for the whole string. I've then used single apostrophe quotes for the string within the string, which is the name command, but then the apostrophes are within that, and that's why it's, there you go. Anyway, there are probably ways to fix that. I fixed it by just taking all those characters out. I'm very sorry. So what I did was I wrote some Python code. I went through every single name. I found all the names. I had a list of breaking characters that broke it. Not a good name actually. And so I found 98 names with breaking characters. And some of them I think are okay, and some are definitely ruining it. And so I went through and took out all the brackets, all the apostrophes, all the ampersands. I switched them to the word and, I hope that's okay. And I can refilm those. So there you go. And so I'm going to refilm those characters. My next problem is other characters would start working on the tree and then break. So actually, you know what? Let me pull up an example. So I'm not going to show you who's, you know what? Where's Remy? So I'm going to put Remy's name on the screen now so you can see what the problem is. It starts with an R and then there's an E with a hat. And I don't mind, Remy has been a supporter of mine I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, aren't I? I'm sorry. Remy? They've been a supporter of mine for a very long time and I met them. They traveled over, they live in Europe, unsurprisingly. They came over when I was doing a DVD recording a couple of years ago. They're great. So I don't think they will mind me using their name as an example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy their name and then I'm going to bring up this. Okay, here's the terminal again so you can see what's going on now. And I'm going to delete thanks. So if I put in something else here, if I just put in hello, there we go, there's hello, H-E-L-L-O. It's slow because it takes the letters and scales them to the amount of time so that together they take 4 seconds. So now instead of hello, let's put Remy in there and so that's a dot. Okay, so now when I send this name, we get the, oh, broken, didn't even go. Oh my goodness, that's worse than normal. E is not in list. Huh, didn't even find it. That's not good. Okay, so now this is another problem. This is not, oh yeah, it has a comment. It's displayed the R and then it's broken. So that's what will have been happening when I was recording. Sorry, the point of view is not great. It's gone for, you know what, let's get Remy again. I'm really sorry. I'm going to, I know this is not your name now. I'm going to change that to an R. So if I do it now, it'll work. There it goes, fine. Then I'm going to, let's change, I know this is not your name. I'm very sorry. I'm going to try, I was trying to do let me get an a different type of A. Let's get a Swedish looking A, okay. Okay, I'm very sorry. This is not your name, but I've moved the non-standard character to be later in the name. Now it's doing fine, gets to the A, boom, and it's broken out on here. There you go. And so, this is now a different problem. So the communication's fine, but the code on the Pi, I've got a bit where it looks up the letters in a list to get the index for where it needs to look for the list of which LEDs to turn on, and that is clearly breaking. And there's somewhere I'm like UTF-8 when I should or shouldn't, or handling characters is such a pain. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm going to go through the code for the tree, I'm going to do a bunch of testing, and I'm going to find where that's breaking. And then I'll come back and I'll explain what I've done. So there you are. That's what we're doing. I will see you all in a moment. Okay, welcome back. I think I fixed it. It works. I fixed the problem. I don't fully understand it, but I fixed it. I'll show you. So I've moved the camera back over here. So you've got the better view on the tree over there, and I can still, I'll pop up the terminal window when it's relevant so you can see what I'm doing. So actually, first of all, here's the problem. Turns out for the characters that have umlauts and dots and things, there's more than one way to encode them. So even though they look the same, they can actually be encoded differently, which is incredibly confusing, and I have no idea why you would do that. So, so for example, okay, this is my testing terminal window where I was trying to get my head around this, and I've named two variables, A and B, are both just strings of the same A with the two dots above it. So if I print variable A, bam, there it is, A with two dots above it. If I print variable B, looks pretty similar, doesn't it? There you are. It's same character, same character. However, if you ask the computer, is A the same as B? False. Different characters, despite looking exactly the same, because behind the scenes, they're encoded differently. And that's why, so what we'll do is we'll switch over to, here we are, this is me running Remy's name again on the tree. I start it going, boom, fails. And it did the R, and then it just loses all hope. And the reason it lost all hope was it couldn't find E with a hat in the list. And that's because when I've got the long list of characters that I then use to point to where their list of LEDs is, that's a different E with a hat compared to the E with a hat that's being sent across to be displayed. So it's like, whoa, this E with a hat, totally different to the one on the list. And so I was like, nope, this doesn't match anything in the list. Better just crash out. And that's what's happening. Super annoying. And so the way you fix that, it turns out, is, where's the command? We'll go back through all this other stuff. Here we go. So you import something called unicode data for Python 3, and there's a thing called normalize. So my window's a weird shape, but yeah, normalize. And then I use NFC coding, don't know what that is, turns out it works. And so D is just the normalized version of B, and then C is the normalized version of A. Okay, so now, you've already saw me scroll through some of this stuff when I was testing it before. You print C, looks like that. You print D, looks like that. However, now, C equal to D, absolutely. So what I've done is I just run everything through that normalize function, through this thing. So the reference list, I do that I for I, the whole way through. Bam, normalize that. Anything coming in across the signal, bam. You better believe, normalizing that. Now they match. And so I've, we'll flip back over to, this is now on the Pi. So this is what I just ran, the letters function. I've got another one, which is -ns. Sorry, that's not wrapping very nicely. And that's the non-standard, it's perfectly standard version. Oh, they've still got your, there, I went with the E. So let's switch that over to the non-standard. Here we go. Works a treat. Fixed it. So, all I gotta do now is refilm 98 videos and send them out. I'm gonna do that. And thank you everyone for taking this in very good spirits if you got your name that was wrong. My phone has actually buzzed in my pocket while I've been recording this bit because people are still discussing this online. And actually someone, one of my favorite comments, because obviously loads of people who support me are developers, that's not surprising. And this is a common problem. People found this hilarious that I had a Unicode character issue with my Christmas tree, because it's a massive problem in programming handling these things. I'm glad my tree doesn't throw about time zones. That would be the worst. But my favorite, in the very good-natured discussion about how these things go wrong, one of my supporters mentioned they've got a special character in their name and they were checking into a flight with Ryanair, and the person behind the counter's like, I'm sorry, your name's not on the list, I can't find it. And the developer's like, look at the very bottom of the list. And they scroll down and sure enough, there it is, mangled, like curly brackets and all sorts of rubbish. Because the Unicode or whatever handling that Ryanair was using wasn't able to handle it. So now my tree is got better programming on it than Ryanair, which I feel like is the absolute minimum standard for any form of software. Everything I do, to be honest, in all of life, not just my career and hobbies, I strive to be better than Ryanair. So there you are. I fixed it. I'm going to record. Actually, how long is this going to take? So I've got 98 names. How bad can this be? What was I saying? Last time it took me 8.5 seconds per name times 98 names. That's going to be easy. I'll be done in like quarter of an hour. Let's get on to it. And I am done. I will now go and get the Dropbox links to the new 98 videos and email them out to everyone. And I'll go put this footage up and I will add it into my post on Patreon. So there you are. I look forward to additional discussion in the Patreon comments. I'll leave it all in the one post so it all stays together and coherent, and I'll happily join in. As always, thanks for your support. Oh, one more confession. I realized, just to make it extra robust, because I had a few Chinese characters, I realized that I was no longer using the digits 3, 4, and 5 in the new list of 98 names, and so I did the same trick that I did with the space and full stop, where I switched 3, 4, and 5. Instead of being the digits on the tree, it was those 3 different Chinese characters. So I could, it might have still worked, but I figured I would do that just as a way to make it extra robust, because I can only have to do those names. I can worry about this the next time I do this. Spoiler, which will not be for a while. Although people online, so some comments are like, I bet you regret doing this. No, I love doing this. It's what I do. And I love supporting my supporters. So it's been really good fun. And over time, my regret for committing to stupid things gradually deteriorates. It's inversely proportional with the passing of time, whereas my ambition for doing more ridiculous things increases. And there will be a crossover point. Not that many months from now, I'll do something else ridiculous. One final thought, I do appreciate that from a narrative point of view, not having a major character from the previous behind the scenes video in this video is a very big admission. And of course I'm talking about Stretchy the cat. And the thing is, Stretchy is their own feline, you know? They're a neighborhood cat. I don't own Stretchy. I assume someone does. It's a very cold day out there, so I imagine Stretchy's at home, somewhere warm. They haven't come by. So from a narrative structure point of view, terrible, but such is life. I will provide a Stretchy update next time they drop by. There you go.